All right, there we go. Justin Staples.
Yes.
How are you today, sir?
I'm good, and yourself?
I'm doing well.
Good, good, good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so thank you for finding this
It's
space.
all good, man.
Yeah, for the listeners, I drove up here to Chicago.
Yeah, yeah.
We're sitting down, and a little miscommunication on my part. We didn't quite have the space just yet, but you found one last minute for us
Yeah,
to
yeah.
sit down in. So
That's good, man. The gorgeous city of Chicago, this beautiful sunny day that we have.
yeah, yeah, beautiful backdrop though. It's
Yeah.
a little hazy, but still nice little silhouette of the
It's all
city,
good.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, we were just talking, right,
Mm-hmm.
about just the cannabis industry.
Yes.
And let's jump in right there because you're doing a whole bunch in that scene right now.
Yeah, definitely. So now I've been with Revolution Enterprises, a cultivator out of Illinois, for about a year now,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't find a better industry, I think, to get into right now than the cannabis industry, and specifically with Revolution, because the things that we have going on are just so massive right now, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But really just in the space in itself, man, with my prior background as being a professional athlete, I really just see multiple benefits and, the socioeconomic standing in so many different avenues that we can improve the daily standing of society with this industry, man, and I'm just glad to really be able to have my hand in it right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are a ton of opportunities. You know what I mean? And we were just talking how everybody wants to get in the business
Yes.
as a cultivator, as a grower, or a caregiver, or a dispensary. Like
Something.
that's what everybody wants to do. Like everybody immediately goes to there. But there are so many opportunities
Yeah.
in the ancillary business.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's actually kind of getting brushed under the rug a little bit that we're not really paying attention to. That the cannabis industry is growing so many other industries,
Yeah.
from shipping and parts and all the different things that it takes to even, labeling and printing and marketing and all these other just facets of what it takes to facilitate the industry. And it's going to have such a great economic impact on the whole society as we continue to peel back.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Canada already legalized it,
Yes.
and they're seeing great benefits.
Yes,
You know,
definitely.
you know what I mean? There's just so much to be gained
Yes.
from this plant. It's amazing stuff.
It is.
So let's. You mentioned, being in the NFL. Let's go back a little bit. Go over your history. So take me back to the beginning. When did you start playing football? Were you
Actually,
just Pee Wee from
no,
like,
no, no.
when'd
See,
you
I'm
start?
not one of those guys, man.
Yeah.
As much as I wanted to, my mom was strictly against it. She was like,
Yeah.
no, I'd rather have you in the books, one of those type of things. But finally convinced her when we moved to Cleveland in seventh grade. And my first year playing organized football was eighth grade. And it was just, I was a natural at it, man. Out there, just played well, ended up going through, had a great high school career out there at St. Edward in Cleveland, and got a bunch of offers, ended up coming back down here to University of Illinois.
Right.
Yeah, man, and then had my 5 years down there. It wasn't as highly touted as I would have liked to have been coming
Yeah.
out of college, but I don't know, it just fueled my grind a little bit more.
Yeah.
As being an athlete yourself, when people are doubting you, it just gives you that extra motivation
Oh, yeah.
to go in and train a little bit
Fucking
harder.
get
Yeah,
that fire from the dark
exactly,
side.
man. Exactly, man. It's like, okay, you're going to say that I can't do something, so I'm going to go out there and just prove you wrong.
Yeah.
And got the chance to come in as an undrafted free agent with the Browns. My rookie year, played there, went through 2 camps with them, and then Tennessee picked me up and had a nice little career after that, 4 more years later, and then now we're here.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, that's quite the journey that we just went over really fast.
Yeah.
How big were you back in high school? Because
Oh,
you're
man.
6'4".
Yeah, well, about 6'3", 6'4", 245 last time I stepped on the scale.
Yeah.
But in high school, man, I don't know. I was always kind of a scrawny kid, man.
Yeah.
Basketball was actually my first sport. I say I wasn't able to play organized football until 8th grade, but I started playing basketball at a real early age,
Yeah.
about like 3rd, 2nd grade or something like that. And I think probably my measurables going into senior year, I was probably about same height, 6'3", 6'4", but probably I was like 205.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah.
lying, saying that I was 215.
Yeah, soaking wet.
Yeah, soaking wet. Yeah, 205, man. So that just really accredits, the strength conditioning program that we had down there at U of I at the time, and
Yeah.
Coach Lou Hernandez, who's out there in North Carolina now, man. He just took us through the ringer, put us through,
Yeah.
just what it was to be, taught us what it was to be a Big Ten athlete, man. And within a year, I gained like 20 pounds pure muscle.
Right.
It was crazy, man.
Yeah, you were
I remember that.
in the
Good
right
times.
program. You were you were definitely going to grow into your
Yeah.
frame, being in the right program, no
Yeah, yeah.
doubt. I mean, it was just inevitable. So many high school programs do that, right? We all lie on our weight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to, man. Because it comes down to everything that what makes the world goes around. It's numbers,
Yeah.
and green in multiple facets. But
Yeah.
but when it comes down to those numbers, you want to see the statistics, and you have to make yourself look as appeasing as possible to
Right.
the million of institutions out there. You know?
Yeah. Did you have to go to any camps or anything like that to
Yeah,
get?
man. So I actually came up in like that last little like crazy era where like they could just throw a combine and like 100 coaches were there, and
Yep.
it was before the text message regulations and things like they have now for the kids. And I remember coaches would be texting you at 4 in the morning, like just crazy stuff. Like it was kind of overbearing, when you work so hard to get to that point to being a top recruited athlete. But then, you don't realize all that what comes with it. And,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was a great day when I was able to finally make that decision that, okay, I know where I'm going, so I can put all this behind me. But as far as all the camps and stuff, man, that was really what got me to that standing, to be able to have that exposure, because we weren't as beneficial. We weren't benefiting as much in that era as the kids are today from social media now.
Oh, yeah,
I have a
man.
little brother that came up in the huddle era. All he has to do is throw his highlights on the app, essentially, and every coach across the nation can access it and
Oh.
things of that nature. We were still out there dubbing VHS tapes and
Oh, yeah.
sending them out to coaches and things
Yeah,
of that
dude,
nature.
trying to get mailing addresses and send to put together your own highlight tape.
Man,
Yeah,
exactly.
man.
So those camps were a big help. Like I said, I was one real big one they had at the Brown Stadium, actually, that I got the majority of my offers from, man, from Colorado to Virginia, a whole bunch of places, a whole bunch of teams were there. So
Nice.
it was cool.
Nice. What made you choose Illinois?
I chose Illinois the day before my two-a-days started my senior year. It was something that I just wanted to put to rest. I wanted to have the reassurance that if I did get hurt, going in through such an intensive sport and such an intensive
hard on
time
the body,
of the year
man.
as camp is, like football is, that I had that reassurance of the back end, that I had a scholarship that was going to be honored. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, at the time, I was just really sure of my answer, and Illinois felt like home. I briefly mentioned it, but I was born in Chicago, although I was raised in Cleveland. I can consider Cleveland my hometown.
Okay.
So it was a chance for me to get back close to family and really grow in on the field and off the field type aspect, because
Yeah.
the academics, couldn't beat it.
Yeah, yeah. Nice. I was just in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went with a buddy. We road tripped probably, I don't know, maybe a month ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to go to, it was the Browns versus the Bengals.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to think, we win that one. Did my Brownies win that one?
Browns
I don't know.
won.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, they did.
Hey, man, Baker turning it around. I like seeing what's happening with the franchise right now.
Yeah, that was a good time, and I was so fortunate because my buddy's in a fantasy league, and one of the guys bought a box for everybody in the league.
Yeah.
Only half of the people came, so I got to tag along
Nice.
and just go watch a football
Just
game
go
and
watch
chill
a
in the
fan,
box.
man.
I'm just like, hell yeah,
Can't
man.
beat it, right?
Yeah, it's so funny. Anytime I'm in an arena or a stadium or something, if you have like really good seats, I'm always looking at everybody else and just like, sucks to be you guys.
Right, sucks. I'm living a high life.
Peasants.
Exactly.
And as
man.
soon as I'm in the nosebleed, don't look down on me.
Right. What you looking at? What you looking at, man? I hear
We
you.
got problems out here.
I hear you, man.
Yeah, man. So you went through you really went through the grinder as far as to get into the league. I
Yeah,
mean,
man.
I can almost liken it to, from like my experience would be in wrestling. If you lose and then, or like early on, and then you have to go through wrestlebacks.
Oh, yeah.
To
Consolation brackets.
Yeah,
I'm going through all that, man.
yeah,
It
so
was
it's-
getting it out the mud.
Yeah, you have to grind. I mean, tryouts and all of
yeah.
that, man.
Essentially, man, I got a good position, even though I came in through that way. But with the locals workout, that's really what benefited me pretty much. I think they're still doing them, but each organization has the option to work out local athletes. And with me being going to high school within, I think it was like 15 or 30 miles or something like that of a pro franchise, i.e. the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
I got a guaranteed workout with them. They liked what they saw.
That's dope.
So from there, and then pretty much all you need is that foot in the door. You get on a 90-man roster, and then I can take it from there, because I've already gotten to that point that so many people said that I wasn't going to get to.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, once I was inside the facility, I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
y'all gonna have to drag me out.
It's like, this is home.
Y'all gonna have to drag me out of it. Yeah, seriously. So, it was cool.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. When you go into a place like that, you can feel it, and
Yeah.
it just fucking like, it's like electricity.
Yeah.
Electricity, you know what I mean? I got to fight in Scott Trade Center in St. Louis,
Sick.
and like you walk in there
Yeah.
and you just walk. I'm just like, man, this is home. Like this is where I
Yeah,
should
yeah,
be
yeah.
at. You know what I mean? It feels so good.
I hear it, man.
Yeah, that's dope. So you're in the league for 6 years?
5.
5 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. A lot of punishment. Did you get injured?
Yeah, so I always consider myself lucky compared to some of my colleagues, some of my closest friends that played the game as well, and I didn't have the same type of structural damage or ligament damage that they did coming out. No meniscus, no ACLs, MCLs,
Yeah, that's fortunate.
no labrums, no things of that nature. But where I did get my dings were the bell rung moments and the
Oh, man.
concussions.
All the time.
Yeah, I had 2 diagnosed concussions, but multiple.
You had so many concussions.
Exactly right.
I mean,
you learn how to. The thing that they don't really tell you about, or people that we don't talk about as much in impact sports, is exactly how many times how to fight through that moment to where like I'm semi-conscious almost, but
Yeah.
my body is still firing and things of that nature. And I had a lot of those, man. Playing inside linebacker in the NFL is not going to be any small feat and any small task. You're taking on tip-top athletes that are.
Oh my goodness.
You're giving up 90 pounds to most of these guys.
These
So
guys are giants.
yeah,
and they
yeah,
move
man.
fast.
So yeah, that's where the most of my damage came from. Luckily, I don't feel as though I can complain about it because so many other guys have gotten off in so much worse shape. You look at what happened, with Ryan Shazier and which what seemed like a routine tackle a couple years ago now, and then you're facing paralysis issues and things of that nature, and you're having to battle
scary
back through that.
stuff, man.
It's crazy, man. So I definitely consider myself lucky.
Oh, yeah.
In that nature, but I'm really using now the cannabis industry to try to find the neuroprotecting qualities that we're seeing presented in cannabinoids and how you can manipulate that to prevent some of these things in the game, because I love the game of football. It's something that I never want to see go away. I hate the fact that you can't touch quarterbacks anymore, man.
Yeah.
I was screaming at the TV last week when Tom Brady got the flag, on that little tit-tat touch that I forgot which defensive lineman it was that just barely touched him, but it's just like I also understand the importance, and being a former football player myself, I know the quality of life that we're trying to preserve for our athletes going forward.
Right.
And we can't do that unless we're protecting our brains, and it has to go beyond as great research as we are putting into helmet and equipment technology. We need to advance it on a medicinal level, and this seems to be my answer, at least.
For sure, man. I mean, there's constant head trauma all the time, right?
Yes.
So even if it's just a small impact, right? So you're going in there, you get a tackle. That's trauma on the brain. You know what I mean? It's sloshing around in there, and it's definitely something I really worried about. That's why I actually stopped fighting. I worried about my brain too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? CTE, TBI, like
crazy.
that's real stuff. You know what I mean?
definitely is.
And like you said, there are a lot of amazing medicinal benefits with CBD, and one of those being it helps the production of BDNF, which is brain-derived neurotrophic factor. It's growth factor for our brain. You know what I mean? So when we grew up, we were told that you have a set number of brain cells, and that's it.
And that's it,
You know what I mean? You lose them and they're gone. So, with this, you can grow new brain cells. It's not in every area of the brain, right? But it's in some areas of the brain. You know what I mean? So that's amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It is,
So it's an amazing plant. You know what I mean? So when did you become aware of kind of CTE, and like were you worrying about your brain while you're in the league?
I wasn't, man. I wasn't. I think that's just the I guess bravado that you have in your younger age. You think you're invincible,
bro.
And you're not really thinking about those type of things. And I really became, I guess, aware of it with most other people when the movie Concussion came out. So many people are asking you about it. Have you seen the movie? Have you seen the movie? And all that, and
still
stuff like
haven't
that.
seen that.
I still haven't seen it. Because I think it was because I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
I didn't want to know what I was subjecting myself to. But although I haven't seen it, I have looked into some of the research that Dr. Benin Amalu has presented, who was the main doctor that Will Smith portrayed in the movie. And then also the studies that Dr. Ann McKee came out with. And I've now dived into, more so the studies behind it and trying to see what they're talking about, what's going on, and how we're essentially, if you play up through a high school level, you've been subjected to having CTE. So now really it's about managing the varying levels of it, and hopefully being able to now one day find some way to either prevent, mitigate, or reduce some level of this chemical in our brain.
Yeah, it's so hard, especially with a sport like football, right? Because how old are you?
I'm 29.
29, right? So I'm 31. I mean, so we played football in the same area, right? So growing up, we were taught you lead with your face mask and you put it
Heads
through,
up.
you know what I mean? And now, like, that's not a good tackle. You know what I mean? And I mean, I'm so conflicted on that, right?
Yeah,
Because like that is a good tackle in my mind, but it does put a lot of damage on the brain.
it does. It does.
And then I definitely get with some of the rule changes. You want to protect the investment, right?
You do.
You don't want to hurt your
Definitely.
players. You don't want to hurt, especially your
Very
quarterback.
true.
But sometimes I feel like they call the most ridiculous. I don't watch a ton of football these
Yeah.
days. I don't watch a lot of sports, to be honest with you.
I hear.
But my girlfriend, she's an avid football player.
Yeah.
Or football.
Watch it.
Yeah, she's an avid football
I hear
fan.
you.
She's in fantasy leagues.
Nice.
Yeah. So she makes sure that we'll watch it, and you'll see hits, and it's just like it's unavoidable,
Yeah.
especially when you're like in the backfield or like you're
The
deep,
secondary.
yeah, in the secondary, and they're coming in, and the receivers in the air, and whether it's the D-back or the safety, they have no option but to like settle down and frame up and drive through them, and sometimes just the heads hit. Like
Exactly.
it's still a good tackle. What are you going to do? You can't prevent gravity.
At all. Yeah, and that's where, we're going to have to manage what it takes to actually play the game in the way that we're used to, and also finding the ways to prevent what they're concerned about. Because you're teaching, like you're saying, you have to avoid that helmet-to-helmet contact. But that same thing, if I have a free safety breaking out of the post and he's breaking onto a post route, you want him to go low on somebody, he's going to flip that guy, and there's no telling what damage is going to happen to
Who
that
knows?
guy's head, neck, and what else as he goes
Or his
tumbling.
legs as he's getting chopped.
Or his legs as he's getting chopped or whatever. So we're going to have to continue to have the conversation of understanding, how we're going to play the game the correct way in order to get the product that we're all looking for.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, it's entertainment.
It is.
You know what I mean? It's a bunch of high-level athletes playing a game.
It's a kid's game. That's what we always say. It's a kid's game.
To entertain a bunch of fucking people.
Yes, it is.
You know what I mean? So we're paying these people all this money, and we're telling them, like, you're the best at doing this, but then we're not allowing them to do that on that same note. So there's just so many different ways to look at
balance,
it. You know what I mean?
It's about finding the balance and
Might as
really
well have 7 on
understanding-
7. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't want 7-on-7, although scoring puts fans in seats, but you also want to be able to have a competitive game.
Right.
And you're going to take away some of that competitive element if you're going to take away how much people can defend, essentially.
Yeah.
But that's where the NFLPA does a good job, and the players ourselves, and everybody is really making sure that the true issues of knowing how the game has to be played stay at the forefront. And there's only so much they can peel back, and we're constantly having these conversations with the different research groups and the outside sources that they're using, as well as the owners and everybody else. So it's good.
Yeah, man. I mean, you can't have people out there arm tackling.
Yeah, man, you can't. That's not good, man, because that's going to lead to now you're going to have a million freaking labor room and orthopedic labor doctors popping up because they're going to have so much business. You're out there trying to arm tackle everything.
Yeah, dude. I had surgery on my labrum and rotator cuff in 2016. And,
that's a rough injury, man.
dude.
I've seen a lot of people have it. That's a rough injury.
Yeah. You know what I do, man? I freaking I hang. I have a hanging protocol. I hang every day, man, just from a pull-up bar, just dead hang, both a pull-up grip and chin-up grip, and I have no issues with my shoulder at all. I did hurt the other one mountain biking, though, just being a dumbass. These things happen. These things happen. So are there any particular moments that stick out to you where it was like, shit, man, like my bell was really rung there? Or any times where like you're in a game and you don't remember it?
Yeah, probably going back to college. We were still in the era where you had the 4-man wedges.
Yeah.
For those who aren't familiar with what I'm talking about, you pretty much had offensive linemen on the kickoff return team who, a typical offensive lineman in the Big Ten is going to range from 285 to 320 and still be mobile.
Yeah, not little.
And, not a little guy. And you're running full speed 40 yards, and your sole job is to be the wedge buster and to just run into him and just break the wall and make the ball bounce to make so one of your other guys can scrape over top and make the tackle. I had the job. I drove the short straw of being the wedge buster.
Dude.
That was my first way of getting on the field. But being 19
You're probably
years
hyped
old,
to do it though.
19 years old, red shirt freshman. I'm like, hand me the smelling salt. Let me go. I'm out there wide open.
Yeah.
I don't care, man. I'm going to do it because I love the game and I'm going to do it. And just in one of those games, man, ran into somebody and I just realized that, I didn't really come fully back conscious after the initial impact because it was two of the guys or whatever, and I just ran right into the middle of them, made the play, made the ball bounce, all that. But yeah, I got back to the sideline and I was just
Dazed.
like a bit beyond dazed. It wasn't just like seeing the stars and stuff. Like I couldn't hear stuff.
Oh,
like it was
shit.
like I was out. I was really scared, and I kind of hid from a trainer a little bit because if they see you in those moments, they do a real good job of being,
They have to protect you.
Checking on you and stuff like that. But yeah, that was a tough moment where I was like, do I really want to keep doing this? But luckily, I didn't have too many more of those.
Yeah.
I was able to have more cognitive awareness of myself on the field and knowing when to go take those impacts.
Yeah, but when you make a big play in that moment, you know what I mean?
Good.
Especially when
so
you're
good,
young.
man.
You have the whole team there.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, everybody's slapping your helmet
Slapping your
afterwards.
helmet. Right, which is
is
probably
even-
bad. Which is
Fucking
probably
you up
bad
even
when you
more.
think about it. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But dude, it feels good. It really
Yeah, it
does. You know what I mean? It's
It does.
community.
It does, man. It's a brotherhood. It's only those who are living the same life as you at that time in that same locker room know exactly what you're going through, and it's something that you wouldn't trade for the world, which is why you go out there and you risk those things.
Yeah.
But it's also good when you're able to do that and not walk away really effed up.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a hard sport on the body. Dude, I had a question I was going to ask you. It's okay. So in like the trainers, right? Oh, I know what I was going to say. The other had is actually more of a comment because as an athlete, if a trainer doesn't look out for you, like we won't look out for ourselves. To be honest with you.
Oh yeah, no. I want to push myself to the limit because that's what I've been trained to do. That's how I'm wired.
Yeah.
And that's where when you're looking into some of these studies, you're seeing that the CTE is essentially having the effect of people not being able to turn that wiring off.
Nope.
When you're looking at what's happening with some of these off-field incidents and things of that nature. So really it's about helping preserve life for everyone if we're able to use this industry to combat that.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, like I said, you're just wired to push yourself to limits that you didn't think that you could make. So
Yeah.
it's like, you don't know sometimes when to turn it off. And
Yeah,
especially
man.
if you're in the game, in the combat moment, in the match.
Yeah, it's so
It's
hard.
really
I mean, you're always just turned on. I think of in more recent, like Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah.
Like that dude had a very crazy ass life, from my understanding.
Yeah, man. It was from what I've learned and how I didn't know the guy personally, but from what I've seen in the media, it seems like it was a mixture of a bad upbringing on top of the fact of now what he's dealing with mentally as a effect of having CTE and things of these nature.
Yeah, and you see it over and over again, right? I mean, Junior Seau, unfortunately, he killed himself back in the day, and then you'll see these high level football players do just the most outrageously violent shit sometimes. But like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you give these guys a license to run around like head first into each other all the time.
Yeah.
There's going to be some repercussions.
Definitely.
So is the NFL? I mean, I've noticed they've laxed their standards and stuff like that. Are they doing any education, or as far as you're aware, like in the locker room, on some ways to help the brain?
Yeah. So first, for every game day that you have third-party concussion specialists. I'm not sure exactly what the terms are, but you have somebody that's not affiliated with the NFL or any clubhouse that's watching the game, and they're the spotters essentially. So they'll look in if number 32 looks a little bit dazed or something like that. They're up in the box and they're watching, and they're the ones making the call to say that guy has to come out. So you don't have that bias or that influence of an organization trying to say let him stay in a little bit because we need that guy.
Yeah.
So you have that layer of specialty on top of, I mentioned it before, the amount of conditioning and refurbishment that they're putting into the equipment to make sure that it's at tip-top standards every single year. You're having the best equipment that you can possibly, and they're putting more and more money and more research into it to make sure every single year they're coming out with better and better models to protect the players going forward.
Yeah.
As well as the emphasis on the heads-up game. We take it from the NFL on down. It's something that they're really talking about and trying to emphasize even into youth football.
What is the heads up?
Playing heads up and like you're saying, not making those spear tackles. Playing heads up, making sure that you're seeing what you're hitting, having your head off to the side and things of that nature. And they're doing emphasis on those types of things. And I remember seeing charts and things around that, talking about, this is a proper tackle and things of that nature. Just little subtle things that, you're not even realizing that you're paying attention to on a daily basis.
Yeah.
It's emphasizing the coaching, it's emphasizing the culture of the team.
Yeah.
Everybody's making sure and we're on each other, and guys are talking and making sure it's a real focal point right now of the game, making sure that, while we are wired and we're given that license to run around and smash into each other, they're also trying to make sure that, that it's a game and we're trying to protect each other while we're playing the game, although we may be on opposite sides of the field.
Yeah.
And then even going forward, that we still got to be good people in society. You still got to be good stewards of society, because even if you didn't want it or not, people are looking at you and they're looking up to you, and everything that you do is under a magnifying glass. So
and for the most part, I mean, there's always outliers, but once you make it to that level, everybody wants to win, but it's almost like we're all on the same team, in the sense that we're all in the NFL, we're all high-level athletes, we're competing, you know what I mean? But we don't have to be dicks to each other. Let's compete during this time frame, and then afterwards, it's all good.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's always really good. So are they doing anything as far as like recovery education? I'm sure there's
we have the different specialists that come in throughout camp, and we have different sessions where you're talking everything from finances to what you're talking about recovery.
Like anything like cryotherapy.
They're emphasizing that, and guys do that on their own anyway. Guys are sleeping in freaking hyperbaric chambers and all type of stuff like that. So there's a real big emphasis on the recovery aspect of it, and every clubhouse is putting as much money as they can into their athletic training department, and making sure the whirlpools are up in tip-top shape, and all the recovery equipment from the STEM packages and all those things. And I have no clue. Luckily, like I said, I wasn't in the training room that much, but all that technology, man, is at tip-top shape.
Yeah. What do you like to do for recovery? I mean, you still train, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you like to do?
I'm a traditionalist, man. I'm a masochist, I guess, because I freaking hate cold weather and I hate cold tubs, but that's my go-to.
Yeah.
Just, even if I'm not in a facility that has one anymore, I'll go to the gas station and get 5 bags of the big gallons of ice, and just drop them in my tub, man, and just sit there and wait till my body doesn't hurt anymore. Use that. And then also now, as the programs being able to develop and doing things like that, I got a chance to spend a lot of time out in Vegas. They have an adult use market out there, so I got a chance to check out a lot of the topicals and things that you're seeing come out, in the tinctures and stuff that's happening that are on the CBD side, and the one-to-ones with the CBD and THC. And I'm seeing a lot of benefit with those, because I didn't really like the biofreezes and the icy hots and things of that nature, because I kind of get that chemical burn. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Well, dude, our skin is an organ, man.
Exactly.
What you put on is what you put in it.
Exactly, man. So even though the pain relief seemed kind of similar, I definitely enjoyed the aspect of not having that when I was trying most of those topicals and things of that nature, man, because it's like I said, like you said, I mean, your skin's an organ, and you don't want just a rash because you're trying to recover from something.
Yeah, man, I'm very conscious of like what I put on my skin these days, because there's just so many chemicals.
So much stuff, man.
Yeah.
There's so much stuff out there.
Yeah, I've had a lot of success with CBD topicals, though. The one that I use is by Jumbo Superfoods, and it just has, they have a 100 and a 200 milligram. The 200 milligram also has, I don't know what's in it. I'm gonna blank out on the name. I'm gonna mess it up too, so I'm just not gonna say. But a methanol probably is what it is. Is that right? Does that sound right? I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Either way. I've been using that like on my fingers and stuff after jiu-jitsu, or I cranked my neck the other day from rolling too much, and I use that on there, and the CBD feels so good. And they use all like organic premium ingredients. It's very minimal, so I just really enjoy that. And I was listening to Joe Rogan on the way up here with Ben Greenfield, and he says he likes to put CBD cream on, and then what he'll do is he'll put on like an electromagnetic pad from like a stem machine, a TENS unit, and then he'll turn that on, and he'll do that with a cold press. And he says when you do the electrostimulation, that helps kind of open up the cells, and it will drive the CBD deeper into like your dermis, your skin, and kind of help get there even better. So I'm gonna try that out. Yeah. I don't know.
Seems legit.
It was fascinating. I'm such a nerd about this stuff, dude. I dive into it.
Man, that's how you benefit from it, man. The more you know, the more you can manipulate and get the results that you want. So that's
yeah, especially with the brain. So I became obsessed with the brain because, one, fighting. You take a lot of shots over the years, and then my daughter, when she was young, she was diagnosed with autism. So it's such a spectrum, and she's not very severe on that spectrum. Like some people, they can't look at you, they can't
Yeah.
speak. It's a very difficult
It's
way
very
to live,
overbearing. Yeah.
right? She, on the other hand, is you would almost. I actually question if that's necessarily the right diagnosis
Diagnosis.
because she has a lot of those traits, but she's gotten 1,000 times better. I'm just really strict on her diet and different things that what I give her. But you wouldn't even necessarily know. So I wonder if it's just one of those things to where they diagnosed such a wide spectrum because they didn't know what to diagnose, and then in like 30 years we'll find out that hey, this half of the people aren't really on the
Exactly.
autism spectrum. We
Yeah.
just didn't know what to fucking call it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just wonder about that. But anyway, it sent me down this rabbit hole of learning about the brain and like what helps the brain. And there's just so many compounds. Like for example, creatine has neuroprotective properties. Did you know that?
I didn't.
They did a study on this in like '93. I wish I can remember who did it, but yeah, man. I mean, that's one of the safest and most studied supplements out there. It's super cheap, and for a lot of guys who lift and whatnot, I mean, that's an easy thing to add into your
Oh
regimen for your
yes.
brain. You know what I
You
mean?
get very familiar with creatine working
Exactly.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then CBD. Obviously, we've been talking about it. That's another one. So, yeah. So, how did you really get concerned about your brain? I don't think we actually answered that question.
Oh yeah. So
So, I mean, yeah, go through
yeah.
that for me.
Because of the concussions, man. My last diagnosed one was in my final camp in 2017.
Yeah,
And
I don't think I asked that question
yeah,
very well. So, did you talk to somebody that's kind of put you down the path of like, hey man,
it was
you might
self-reflection.
want to try CBD. Like this might be a good idea for you. You know what I mean? Like, how did you kind of start down this path of cannabis and like what was that spark for you? Does that if
I
that
hear
makes
you.
better
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry to cut you off.
no, y'all good. So really, it was a mix of things when I decided to make that last step away from football.
Yeah.
Because you know when you're going in and out of camp, and like I said, when you're an undrafted free agent like me, and everything is guaranteed, you fall into the with the fact of the NFL not having currently a development league, you have to go either to Canada to go play, or you're playing some
Yeah.
other misshapen form of the game.
Yeah.
And I went through, just the same questions that everybody asks themselves, like, okay, am I going to do that? Am I going to get into coaching? And what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I end up really thinking about, okay, well, what are my passions? Obviously, football is one of them, but how can I be around it? Because I think that I already knew without knowing that I was done with football before I answered the question for myself.
Yeah.
And then once I did finally answer that question for myself, okay, well, how can I still help guys that are playing? Because I have younger brothers that are still playing and things of that nature and stuff, and like I want to give back.
Yeah.
And I just looked to what was the main issue that I saw around me while I was in the league and things
Yeah.
of that nature. And I
Brain.
just saw that the fact that it wasn't even necessarily just the brain that really got me starting to look towards the cannabis industry. It was just the overall pain management aspect of
Yeah.
what was happening in every locker room that I saw. That
Yeah.
I had teammates that were taking the amount of pills that I hadn't seen anybody besides my great grandparents take,
Yeah.
at one sitting, just to go out and be ready for practice.
Yeah,
And
man.
doing things of that nature, or, just having to go through every type of treatment and freaking whatever you can think of to try to make sure that your body is in shape to be able to just either go practice or play the game. And I just thought about, the times that I had tried things before, tried marijuana before and things of that nature. And I just knew that there was some type of healing benefit with it. There was some type
Absolutely.
of, pain relief benefit to it. So I just started looking up, researching and things of that nature. And then I was just like, oh, well, okay. We're now in the times where there's so much more research and I even realized that was out there. So let me dive head first into this. Let me see how I can use this to now go forward and help those that are still playing and give them a safer alternative than what we're seeing with all these opioids that are leading to addiction and stuff.
Yeah.
That the people are vilified and they're labeled certain things when they're failing drug tests and things like that in the NFL, but you don't really know the story behind what got that person to that point
Yeah.
and things of that nature. And I just saw this industry as a way to where I can kind of get in at this time now and help rewrite that stigma as also while I'm helping those guys.
Yeah, yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I mean, it's something. It's one of those situations to where this is something that you're dealing with, and you want to make sure that people coming up behind you don't have to deal with this same issue. So you definitely want to help. And yeah, the cannabis industry is definitely a good way to go. So, fuck, I wrote it down. Revolution?
Yes.
How did you get linked up with them?
Actually, through my lawyer, was talking to him, and I was kind of in the realm of, like I said, making that decision of what I was going to do post football. And he was like, "Oh, what were you interested in right now?" And I kind of said it to him, messing with him, because I just kind of wanted to see what his reaction would be when I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, well, I'm actually thinking about getting into the cannabis industry." And it was actually at the time when my wife and I had moved out to Las Vegas, and he was like, "Well, I actually got a company for you." And I'm like, "Wait, huh?" Like,
Yeah.
oh, I was just joking at first, kind of like just trying to gauge, like I said,
Yeah.
gauging, kind of like to mess people with people a little bit, because you don't know
Doesn't hurt
what
to ask.
no, but it's funny now, the reactions that you get when you say this to people, or you say what you're working in and things of that nature. It's either you're going to get that completely accepting and understanding, like, okay, that's cool. You're going to get that, kind of surprise, like, oh, we're doing that now, like, oh,
Yeah.
is that kind of your hair now? Okay, that's cool. I guess I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Or then you get those people who are still strict opponents, and they're just like, oh, well, come with this different. So it's kind of funny to gauge people's reactions a little bit, but yeah, so he actually pointed me in the direction of Revolution. Got to meet the CEO before I was working for the company, and just hit it off from there.
Yeah.
Found a mutual interest, and it's been great ever since.
Yeah. So fill me in on some of the things you guys got going on with that.
Oh, well, we talked about it before we started today, but I'm currently hosting a podcast with my colleague John Custer called
Right,
The Vault. Where we're going in and having a lot of conversations like these, and trying to talk to people nationwide about, the things that they're doing to help facilitate and move this industry forward. The company itself, we're one of the top cultivators in Illinois, in the Midwest, and we're constantly growing. We're constantly looking forward, and we're trying to live what our name is, and then help really, this revolution kick off.
Right.
And we're dispensing all over the state, and things are great.
That's dope. So you guys are the growers, right?
Yes, cultivating.
And then you're cultivating it.
Fully integrated, yeah, and we're dispensing as well.
So you have dispensary storefronts as well?
Yeah, we're in every dispensary out here. Yep.
Okay, right. Yeah. So you're providing the dispensaries,
Yes.
right? Okay. Yeah, that's cool, man. Do you guys also do like extracts or?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a full
line?
line of products.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So and help me with the laws here in Illinois. Is it just medical?
Yes, currently we're just medical currently, but hopefully with J.B. Pritzker getting and winning the gubernatorial race, we'll see the adult usage market here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, hopefully, man. It's just so crazy that we tell grown folks that you can't consume a plant in your own free time.
And it's really interesting when you see how that narrative was written and how we got from 12,000 years ago all the way up into 1776 when writing the Declaration of Independence on hemp paper and requiring every citizen to grow hemp and things of this nature, to where we and what we know in society as this vilified evil drug.
Oh my goodness.
And it's really, once you go to the 1930s and look and really realize that we've just been living in about 100 years of this stigma.
Yeah.
And like I said, and then when in the grand scheme of things, this goes back 12,000 years. And we're really getting back more so to some of these ancient practices that we had and being able to incorporate into society. And it's really good to see things come back full circle.
Oh, yeah. Dude, people are going to look back one day and they're going to be like, those guys, did they really do that?
Yeah.
They said you can't do what?
It's going to seem
idiots.
crazy. It's going to seem crazy.
It really will, man. And for the folks listening, I mean, William Randolph Hearst and Harry Anslinger, just all from corporate greed, dude.
Yeah,
it blows me away. But we're still kind of living in that time,
we
right? We have all of these alternative sources of energy that we could pursue, yet we still rely on fossil fuels.
And clean coal.
Yeah, clean coal.
That was a good one.
Is that an oxymoron?
That was our president's description of how we're going to,
Clean coal. I don't know,
coal.
man. Listen, I just figure that we have a lot of smart people who have figured out a lot of cool ways to do things.
Yeah.
Why are we not pursuing that?
Like you said, because of the structure. And I'm just glad that, like I said, we're able to now, as much as we can, on a smaller scale, fight and get some of these alternative ways of thinking. And even though it's crazy to call them alternative, but some of these other, I don't even want to call it non-traditional, because it's more traditional than the tall path that we're in.
Yeah, no, it's just we have these weird semantics, right? Everybody's been told that.
Yeah, getting some of these other ways though to be more mainstream and realize the place that they should have in our society.
Yeah, it's so weird because people will go out and research something that's healthy for them if you tell them to eat a certain food or a spice or something, or they don't believe that these plants can be a medicine, but they've been medicines for thousands of years. Like they'll go research that and they'll pursue that with hesitation. But if a doctor writes a prescription for some synthetic compound that was made in a lab and says, "Hey, take this for the rest of your life," nobody fucking bats an eye
Nobody
about
cares.
that.
Yeah,
It
man,
blows me away.
because of how we're wired is because of the system of what we know to be true. I have the pattern. Oh, I don't feel good. I go to the doctor. I listen to the doctor. I should feel better, and you don't realize that a lot of the times that things aren't getting better. They're just kind of like band-aids on open wounds and things of that nature. And it really takes that initiative of oneself to dive in and find the knowledge and really have that internal healing. If you want it, if that's what you're seeking, it's all about putting how much effort that you possibly can into finding the answers that you want and not stopping when you get that no and things of that nature, or you get that, oh, well, this isn't recommended. Well, why isn't it recommended?
Right.
Well, can you give me the basis? Why is it? Because of, is it going to kill me? Oh, well, it's not going to kill me. So then what's going to happen, and things of that nature. And once you really just, keep seeking your answers.
Yeah, man. People just put so much trust in doctors. And the thing is, they have not been taught really what health is, because our current system is just they manage symptoms and it's sick care regulation. You know what I mean? They don't really try to cure or treat too much of anything for the most part. It's just, all right, these are your symptoms. Let me give you a pill, give you a steroid cream for this, or you know what I mean? And they don't really treat the root cause. And it's really unfortunate. But you have to really take an interest in your own health and learn and read. And there's so much free research out there. I mean, there's so much free information. There's no reason that.
Free knowledge.
Yeah, it's out there, man. You can get all of the real-time information as far as cannabis and what's going on in like the health and wellness scene is all available free on a podcast or on YouTube, like by the scientists and the doctors that are doing the research, that are helping patients, by people like you that are actually in the scene, going to conferences, talking to people, learning as much as you can. The knowledge is out there if you seek it.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite places to go for knowledge as far as books or podcasts, or what do you like?
I just find a term on Google. Like, I just find like, okay, I don't know what limonene means. What is limonene? And the next thing I know, I'm just on like the 5th page of Google. I'm trying to find as many scholarly articles as I can and just dive in.
Yeah.
I guess I'm in the new age form of technology and trying to find the knowledge when I do that.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned before, going to conferences and talking to and getting out to, meet the people who are writing these articles and, really hearing about their in-depth research and what's going on and doing things of that nature. Literally spent all of last year going from MJ BizCon in Vegas to CannaCon in Boston and CBD conferences in San Jose and all over the place, man. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
Bet you met some interesting people.
Yeah, you definitely meet some characters, man. I guess that's the good thing about having 7 billion people on this planet. There's not too many of us that are alike, so it's cool, man.
But as different as we all are, we're all kind of the same too. It's really weird.
That's true.
This human
That is
experience.
True. It is true, man.
Yeah, man. We all like to think that like maybe the particular circumstance may be unique to you, but chances are there's probably somebody who's lived through something very similar.
Right, if not exactly like it. That's
exactly. Yeah, it's it's always good to keep that in perspective, but it's hard.
It is, man. It is. You get so concerned with the self, and what's going on, but it's good to talk to those who have walked that path before, and and then once you are that one, to be able to reach back and be that bridge builder and talk to somebody, on the other side and be like, hey, I've been in those pitfalls and things of that nature.
Yeah, that's one of the beautiful things about podcasting, right? That's why I like to do. It's a little inconvenient, but that's why I like to do all of these in person, right? So that way I can sit down and actually connect with the person, because if I hang up the phone or if I press end on a teleconference or whatnot, and then the connection's over. You know what I mean? So I like to actually sit down, and it is more work, and I have to be more patient. But it just is what it is, dude.
Yeah. It's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. Are you enjoying podcasting?
I'm liking it, man. I thought that I always had a good, perspective on things, and I wanted to find the way that I could, express some of the things that, I was learning and bring people along on the journey that I'm really having right now, turning from NFL athlete to, now in the business world and things of that nature. and it's been really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be something that's going to be a launch pad to take us to bigger and better things, and we're going to keep growing it as much as we can.
Yeah, well, you definitely seem to be navigating the waters well. That that transition
Yeah.
out of professional sports. That's hard for so many
Oh yeah,
people.
man. I mean, because you got to think, like you said earlier, you got guys playing pee wee ball starting at 5 years old with
Yeah.
one goal in mind.
One.
And that's the thing. People always say that only 2% is going to make it to the league and things of that nature and stuff like that. But you know, really, once you actually do make it to that level, you're like, I guess you get some kind of I don't want to call it you get some type of attachment to it, and it's like, now I actually did get past that barrier, and it's like, now I have this belonging here, and now you get kind of comfortable in that realm of, this is who I am. I am a professional athlete, you know. And then when you take that label away from someone, you're taking away, if they haven't set up or they don't have a diversification on themselves, you're taking away their sole identity from who they were when they were 5 years old up until sometimes 30.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of dedication, and you're definitely getting a lot of benefits from it. So I know people aren't lining up to cry you a river, but it's like, at the same time, man, it's a hard path to or a hard fork in the road to kind of come to. But I definitely think I chose the right direction, and it's been really beneficial ever since.
Yeah, dude. I mean, getting into a business and being financially smart and trying to make some moves. I mean, that's definitely where it's at. So many people just piss away all their money.
Yeah, man. And then, like I said, you got guys coming from nothing and not really having that knowledge and that generational wealth or that generational knowledge to know how to manage the wealth.
Yeah, nobody ever taught them.
Nobody ever even had that much to be able to teach you, and then now you go from broke college student to millionaire in a matter of a month.
Yeah, man.
You're talking about from the draft process, and once the draft process starts and things of that nature, and
keys to the kingdom, man.
Exactly, man.
And you're a young kid. You're a kid.
Yeah,
the brain's not fully developed until you're 25.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're a young kid. Like you said, you had nothing.
Yeah, go from nothing to something.
And then you
crazy.
get all this money, and it's like, holy shit, man. Not you saying you,
but
no.
I
Just you get all this money. It's like, well, you're gonna go fucking crazy a little bit. You know what I mean? You're gonna splurge and buy some nice shit. I mean, if you haven't been taught otherwise.
Exactly.
And you can confirm this. I feel like I watched a documentary. I can't remember what it was, but are there like vendors and shit in the locker room trying to sell you suits and shit? Like, is that happening still? Maybe it used to happen. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing with some of those, because you have like those 30 for 30 going brokes and things of that nature.
Yeah,
like,
man.
The good thing about each generation after, you kind of benefit from some of the silly crap that happened before.
Yeah.
Some of the rules and regulations are kind of in place because of the crap they did before.
You got people going, hey,
but
kid,
you
I know
also
you just
kind
got
of
paid
benefit
this.
from that. Yeah, you also no, man, there was never. I can only imagine our director of security, the expression he would have had on his face if somebody was just like, yeah, I'm trying to sell suits in the locker room. That'd have been funny.
Oh shit!
Yeah, no, they're
man.
not doing that.
Yeah,
If
that was the
anything,
Wild West days then.
Yeah, no. If anything, you have vetted companies that have access and they have working relationships with organizations, and you have time set aside to work with people and do things of that nature. But yeah, there's no salesman in the freaking locker room.
Yeah, dude, that'd be
no, man.
That'd be crazy. So so what are your thoughts on? It was funny because you said work your way all up, all the way through college, and you're a broke college student, and so that triggered my thought. I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about the NCAA and that whole process? I have my thoughts. I will share them, but I want you to answer them.
I got my thoughts too, man. And
how do you feel about that?
Whatever their bias. I mean, I know how it is, and I understand the reason why they've been so. Oh wait, where are we taking this first? Because you just said clearinghouse, so we talking the.
Well, okay, so how do you?
We're talking about paying the players and the fact.
Yeah,
of,
man.
okay,
how
cool.
do how they they're fucking making money and they treat these kids like shit.
Like I said, man. I'm right there with you on it. You have situations to where a kid is making a jersey number so popular to where some of these stadiums have over 100,000 seats in them, and
that jersey's getting sold in Walmart,
85% of
Target.
the people in there might be wearing one person's number, so that means you have 85,000 people all wearing one jersey.
Yeah.
Each jersey going on average, let's just say between, if you're going to average the adult prices with the youth prices, let's say $50 each. I don't even feel like doing the math right now, but that's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of revenue generated from one person, and it's only going to be popular in the area of that person. You know, maybe he transcends, and you know you're selling on him later on in life.
Yeah.
But that same kid might get to the point to where his stipend runs out between trying to pay a cell phone bill, trying to pay a rent, paying car note, paying things that are now considered necessities, and to being in a normal person in today's society.
Yeah.
He might have $20 left over for the next month until his next stipend comes in.
Yeah.
And can't purchase his own jersey in the freaking fan store that you're now making all this money off of.
Dude, he's getting
And
a free
it just doesn't
education. What are you talking about?
Right, he's getting a free education, but you're making 10 times over on that for one game. There's
Yeah.
12 on the schedule,
Yeah.
let alone bowl games and conference championships and things of that nature. And like I said, it's kind of going to be one of those things where people aren't crying you a river because they use that, you know, your free education.
I
And
hate
things
that
of
shit, though.
nature.
But make no mistake,
But
you're a full-time athlete.
You're a full-time athlete.
You're an
on top
athlete
of having the
student,
fact
not a student athlete.
you're an athlete student. You have the requirements are set forth by your sport. Your whole schedule is dictated around your sports requirements. And then on top of that, you're required to be now a full-time student as well without having that benefit of being able to do what most students can and what they always say you do, get a job your damn self, because you can't, because every single minute you're not in the classroom,
Your job is an athlete.
Your job is your being an athlete.
Yeah.
And that means study hard. That means all these other things that comes along with being that. So I think really they're going to have to figure out some type of way to make it just for people in other sports that don't come from the men's swimming programs and things of that nature that are losing numbers and things like that.
Yeah.
But once they're able to figure out the model and how you're going to compensate based off of the amount of revenue that's being brought in, I mean, you can look at just off of the men's football and basketball programs alone, figure out how to spread that around amongst all the athletes.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day,
And
dude, life's not
pay
fair.
everybody.
You know what I mean?
I hear you,
show me a
but
spot in the real world where that
That's true.
matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for those kids, for that swimming kid, like that free education really is great for him. Like,
Yeah, that's true.
he should be happy.
Yeah,
To be honest.
I hear you. But
I mean, give
just
him a stipend, help
I
him
hear you.
live.
Help him live, and the NCAA is already doing a good job at that aspect of it. I say pay everybody because I just don't want that to be the next barrier once you're able to, because I mean, obviously we're talking about mainly the Title IX sports having the most popularity on the men's and women's side. That's men's basketball, men's football, women's basketball, women's volleyball. Those are the ones that are going to have the most fan attendance across the nation at the most, the biggest universities. You have obviously a couple baseball, softball programs that are going to sell out a little bit more.
Programs that will bring in some money, but
I'm talking about on the grand scale.
Yeah,
If we're
for the
talking
most
about,
part,
on
those
a blanket,
sports.
we're talking about most part for those
And
sports.
really, it's men's
And
basketball and football. If we're
it's-
being honest,
if we're really being honest,
that's what it is.
Right, except for the couple anomalies as well.
Yeah, some
but
baseball
and it's like
teams
if you just leave it to just paying the money generating sports, then like I said, there's going to be another barrier because you're looking at a great wrestling program like Illinois has, for example, or Iowa or whatever, and they're like, well, hell, we're bringing in revenue too, so what are we
Yeah.
going to do about this?
Yeah.
And things of that nature.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just important to understand that not everybody's going to get paid the same.
Yeah, and figuring out that scale, and that's why I say I would much rather argue over the scale of per player or per sport what we're going to do, and then make a blanket either per conference or per division, and
Yeah.
everybody at this point, because in that way you're not going to have a freaking argument like, well, this kid at Alabama and they're bringing in
Yeah.
this much money versus this kid at whatever small institute up here, and I'd rather not argue over those things. It's like, look,
Yeah.
you know what's right and what's wrong. Let's
the end
just
of the
deal
day-
with what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah, dude. At the end of the day, I mean, you got Nick Saban making millions of dollars, dude.
I think $8 million a year, or something like that.
Something like that.
Something crazy like
Well,
that.
where's that coming from? We can pay that guy.
Right, you can pay that guy. Coordinators at this point are making millions per year.
Yeah.
And that's new.
Yeah. You didn't think about maybe becoming like a coach or something?
Yeah,
Or
that's definitely in the cards, but I think for later in life.
Yeah.
Right now, my wife and I, we're still, trying to grow businesses and grow our residential properties and things of that nature.
Yeah.
So kind of want to have a little focus on that right now. But I think, further down the line and when kids do come into play and things of that nature, then coaching them would be a goal.
Yeah.
Because I definitely will always have that that intuitive itch.
Yeah.
And, you know, playing the mind game behind football, because it's not just big brutes smashing into each other.
There's
You
a
know,
lot of
it's a lot of
intricacies to it.
it's like chess, man. It's a lot of, you know, moving pieces and things of that nature. And I find a lot of joy in that aspect of the game. So definitely down the line, but for right now, I
Yeah.
think, you know, attacking these businesses and getting forward is really what I'm.
Yeah, yeah. So you're doing some
set
real
on.
estate and stuff.
Yeah, trying to get into some of those things.
Have you ventured into Airbnb or anything like that?
I
I've been
haven't,
thinking
man.
about
Some
that.
of those things, it's getting kind of iffy with the condos associations. You know, they're not really letting
Yeah,
them in
man.
and things of that nature.
And those fees
It's
take all your
crazy,
money.
man. The things that they taught us that were bad when we were kids. You know, like don't talk to strangers on the internet. Don't get in cars with
I
strangers.
do it all the time.
We got apps for those now. It's like, oh yeah, you got Instagram, but it's crazy because it's connecting you with people all around the world. But it's
Dude,
just
yeah.
like at the same time, you still hear those horror stories and what's happening in some of these Airbnbs, and you know, and some of the mess that's with them and things of that nature. So. Yeah, we kind of stood away from that a little bit.
Yeah, I've just heard different things. I had one guy on the podcast, and he has a few different Airbnbs in St. Louis, but he lives kind of closer to downtown, and it's a loft, and he lives there, but he hosts Airbnb all the time, and it helped him pay for his mortgage, like
It's
super
crazy.
quick.
It's crazy. It's really beneficial, especially if you're in a populous area or a popular travel destination.
Here, holy shit,
I
dude.
mean, here, yeah, you can definitely make a killing. You
Oh
know,
my
you
God.
got 3 million people in the city alone, and I don't know how many millions visiting per
Yeah,
year.
dude,
So,
just the people coming in and out all the
yeah,
time.
man. But yeah, maybe down the line, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Well, dude, I don't want to take too much of your time.
It's all
I
good.
really appreciate you sitting here with me.
Thank you so much. Man.
The floor is yours. Tell the folks, you know, how can they check you out? I'll put stuff in the show notes, but any of your
Yeah.
socials that you want to plug or anything like that, except, you know, anything.
All right,
you
yeah.
know?
Well, mainly you can find me on pretty much all platforms of social media at J_Staples57.
Yeah.
And from there you can find everything that I have going on between the vault and just keeping tip top. I got a couple other things I'm keeping under wraps a little bit, but
Okay.
yeah, I'm gonna drop those pretty soon. So stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned. All right, man. Hey, I really appreciate it, dude.
All right, man. Appreciate you,
again.
Adam. It's all good.
All right, everybody.